In this video, I'm going to give you in-game coaching tips during a mound visit, between innings, how to help your pitchers during a game if they're tipping their pitches. So obviously, we all know this is a problem. By pitch tipping, we mean that we're telegraphing, like, this is a curveball, this is a fastball. It becomes so obvious and pronounced when we're throwing one pitch or the other that hitters are going to figure out, hey, like, he's throwing a curveball every time he does this, or a fastball every time he does that. So if you see pitch tipping, and as a coach, you're going to have to say, is this big enough, whatever the difference might be from one pitch to the next, that it's probable that the other team is going to pick this up. A lot of times it's just small. You can address it in the dugout. You can address it in the next bullpen. But sometimes it's so pronounced and obvious that you do need to maybe even have a mound visit, or you definitely need to address it between innings, all right? And catchers can also help you, being like a second set of eyes with pitch tipping. So let's go over some of the most common ways pitchers tip their pitches. Number one, the angle of their elbow. So this might be fastball, this might be changeup, this might be curveball. Usually one is just markedly different than the other. And this is typically because of the way we'll get the ball in our mitt. So maybe I have to really dig for my changeup. And because of the way I dig for it, my elbow is more comfortable being down here. But when I get my fastball, I'm up like that. That's actually less comfortable for me. But as an example, that's kind of how this works. Typically, you'll see a pitcher, the angle of their arm in their glove, the way they're getting their grip, just varies from pitch to pitch because of comfort. So elbow and arm angle as it flows out of their glove is one of the most common ways pitchers tip their pitches. The second way pitchers commonly tip their pitches is when their glove is held a different height. This also kind of stems back to what they're doing in their glove. So maybe curveballs are here and fastballs are here, and there's just enough difference where the opposing team can tell. And again, catchers can help, pitchers, everyone from the dugout can help, but the more people are watching, looking for inconsistencies, the more you can pick these things up. The next way pitchers tip their pitches is how quickly they get the grip. This is only something you'll be able to figure out after watching a larger sample size of pitches. Because I might take a while to get my changeup grip, but the next time I might get it really, really fast. So we don't really know. But as the game goes by, say a pitcher's thrown 4 or 5 innings, and every time they throw a changeup, it takes them a while to calm down in their glove. Whereas every time they get a fastball, there's like no movement at all, and they're like ready to pitch. Then we're going to say, hey, when they dig and when they take a little bit of time, that's clearly a changeup, right? So the amount of time it takes to get the grip is a major pitch tell. The next way pitchers commonly tip their pitches is digging. So when I get my fastball, it's a super easy grip to get. There might be no movement in my glove at all, but say I'm getting a splitter grip and you just see like some digging, like I'm moving around and jostling my glove. That's a common way to tip a pitch. Pitchers, often they're just so locked in, they just don't realize they're doing this. And it seems really obvious, but again, it could just get overlooked by everyone in the ballpark. So if you see a lot of digging from one pitch to the next and there's a difference, again, hitters will start to put this together and then they could essentially know what pitch is coming. So be careful on how much pitchers are digging. If they have to dig on one pitch, one strategy is just try to dig on every pitch, even though like I'm faking the digging when I'm just getting a fastball, right? So that's one strategy to combat pitch tipping when you dig. Next way that pitchers commonly tip pitches is wiggling their gloves. This is not the same as digging. It's kind of just a strange tick, but like I might just be here with my fastball, and then when I get a curveball, just because I'm mentally excited or like nervous to throw a curveball, there just might be some nervous energy. This happens sometimes, even in the major leagues. This has been documented with some big leaguers where they just like, it's just like almost like a nervous tick. Just like when we're excited sitting at our desk at school, sometimes our legs start to just balance because we like enjoy what we're talking about or whatever it is. Or we're excited for the class bell to ring and we get to run out of class in 1 minute. So we're getting excited. It can be the same thing when we're getting ready to throw a pitch. And the last way that we'll cover today that pitchers commonly tip their pitches is the tempo of their delivery. This was one that actually I had during Pro Bowl. I was slightly faster when I was throwing a fastball. When I was throwing a curveball, I would like sit back on my back leg a little bit longer. It can be the actual tempo of how fast your feet move through your delivery, or it could be how long you stay on your back side. But there can be tempo changes to your mechanics from one pitch to the next. Those are much harder to pick up on. My manager, when I had that tell one year, he was a former big league catcher. He had like the best eyes on the planet. So those can really fly under the radar, but that's another group of tells where pitchers just because they're a little bit more anxious on one pitch, or they've been always reminding themselves, like, I got to stay back on this curveball or back on this fastball. There can be subtle differences in their mechanics from one pitch to the next, and that can be enough to tip a hitter off that he knows now what the next pitch is coming. So what should you say during a game if you notice that your pitcher is tipping it? Number one, you just go over this typically in the dugout. This is not something you'll be able to do during a mound visit typically. So when they come in after an inning, you pull the catcher over, say, hey, here's what I see. There's a big difference in your hands, or there's a big difference in your elbow, or I see you digging. Just let them know what the problem is, and then they can try their best to solve it. You don't want to beat a dead horse. If this continues to be a problem, it might just be something they need to solve during the next practice session, in the next bullpen session. But you as a coach have to make a determination whether or not it's dire enough and you really think they're picking it up or they could pick it up, where this should be something that pitchers spend mental bandwidth on during a game. Sometimes you just don't want them to be thinking about another thing. Oh, I got to worry about how I'm doing this. And it might be something like, hey, we'll just cover this the next week. It's probably not that big of a deal. They're probably not picking it up. I see it, but they might not see it. So you have to make that determination as a coach. Now, one way you can teach your pitchers as a staff to prevent some of the digging and the differences in their pitches is by getting a default grip that's not their fastball. So say they throw a splitter, and a lot of major leaguers will do this if they throw a splitter. They'll get their splitter grip as they're taking their sign. So now they have the most difficult grip to get already preset. And then when they come set in their glove, they can easily change it to a fastball. And yet if they want to keep it, they can easily obviously just keep it. That's a good way to do it if your changeup is hard to get into a grip, or you have a splitter that are typically hard to wedge in there. Pitchers will get this as their default grip. So when they're taking their signs, they might have a changeup grip, but then they're going to easily switch to fastball or curveball or slider, which are easier to get and require less digging. So that's one way of preventing pitch tipping and allowing a pitcher to get their most difficult to find grip in an easy way when they finally come set. So I hope this video was helpful. If you see pitch tipping as a coach, it is something you want to address. Often it's not the best thing to address during a game. And again, you have to figure out if it's worth it and if the other team's actually picking up on it. Many times they're not, and your eyes might be better than the 13-year-old kids that you're playing against. But sometimes pitch tipping is a big problem, and you do want to address it. You're typically going to do that in the dugout between innings, and just give them a couple little things like, hey, this is what I see. Just try to keep everything consistent and work on it a little bit in your 6 or 8 warm-up pitches. That's a great time where they can start to sort this stuff out and then hopefully get on cruise control. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe or join my channel. Check out my books and my online courses. Leave a comment or question if you have any. I respond to most of them. And I'll see you here in the next video.